Have you ever argued with yourself for hours about a decision, only to suddenly feel something inside you settle and know the answer? Not because you thought it through, not because you gathered more evidence, but because something inside you clicked. That moment, that clean internal shift, isn't random. It isn't imagination, and it isn't emotion. It's intuition. And if you understand what that is and how it actually works, it changes how you make decisions, how you trust yourself, and how steady your life feels. Every person is born with an internal guidance system, the one that doesn't shout, doesn't panic, and doesn't demand attention. It simply runs in the background waiting for you to become aware of its steady presence. It isn't mystical, it's real and experiential. The world teaches you that only what you can see, touch, taste, hear, or smell is real. So most people grow up assuming intuition is imagined, something people claim to set themselves apart, to seem elevated, as if they have access to something others don't. But intuition isn't a personality you put on or will into existence for purpose. It is something you are born with. Awareness is the key to using intuition to guide your life. It's also the reason why so few people know it exists. Not because awareness is difficult, but because they don't know what they're supposed to be paying attention to. Intuition has a tell. It shows up different than anything else you feel. Fear is loud and scattered. Anxiety hums in the background like a faulty electrical wire. Desire gets theatrical. Old pain sounds like an alarm. Overthinking feels like your brain is sprinting laps with too much caffeine. But intuition is a shift, a clean, precise click inside you, a sudden alignment, a moment where everything stops spinning and snaps into place. You can spend hours arguing with yourself, weighing options, spiraling through possibilities, and then suddenly, click, you just know. And you've experienced that. Everyone has. It's unmistakable. And if you look back, it brought you something that you needed, an answer, peace of mind, or relief. And here's an example. There was a time my best friend and I were in conflict and I couldn't stop thinking about it, so I decided to take the dog for a walk to get out of my head. And about halfway into the walk, a single sentence rose up inside me, quiet, clear, and complete. What does it matter? And I stopped walking and just let those words roll around for a moment, not analyzing them, rather just letting them reveal their meaning. And when their meaning landed, it lifted the weight of confusion off of me. What did it matter if the relationship continued or ended? What did it actually change about my life going forward? Nothing. I would be okay, she would be okay, and life would continue to unfold, bringing new experiences to both of us. The truth wasn't about the outcome. The truth was that I didn't need to fear the outcome. That realization didn't come from thinking. It didn't come from problem solving. It wasn't logic. It arrived whole, calm, and undeniable, as if someone handed me the answer without prefacing it. This is why awareness is what allows you to differentiate intuition from thoughts. Intuition isn't you thinking. It's an internal knowing that surfaces fully formed. It doesn't build up gradually or argue its case. It arrives direct, complete, quiet, certain. You don't generate it, you notice it. That's why it feels so different. Thoughts spin. Intuition lands. Intuition can show up as a physical sensation, a tightening, a tingling, a sudden alertness, a sudden jolt, a wave of clarity, a heaviness that says no, or a lightness that says yes. It can come as a sentence, a sense, a pull, a pause, or a shift. But no matter how it presents, it's directional. It tells you something in a fraction of a second that your mind might take weeks to unpack. It doesn't ramble. It doesn't narrate. It doesn't drag you through your personal history. It gives you exactly what you need: a truth, a direction, a feeling, a certainty, an answer. And it feels different than your internal chatter. Cleaner, wiser, steadier. like the part of you that refuses to let you lie to yourself, but will never shame you for what you've done. People have tried to name this for centuries. Some call it a gut feeling. Some call it instinct. Some describe it as the angel on your shoulder, one of the two wolves inside you, the higher self, or the anchor. Different language, same mechanism, same purpose. To give you the ability to experience a life with more peace than chaos. When intuition begins to surface, it doesn't arrive with fanfare. There are no trumpets, no cosmic neon signs, no sudden spiritual fireworks show. It comes the way it always has, quietly, gently, with a familiarity you can't quite place. You don't force intuition. You don't unlock it with enough meditation sessions or manifest it like an overdue package. Intuition cannot be summoned on command. It can only be noticed. And the first sign of noticing is simple. You pause. A real pause. The kind that cuts through the autopilot. You stop mid-thought, mid-sentence, mid-scroll, mid-surge of emotion. Something subtle shifts beneath your awareness, like someone gently tapping the brakes inside of you. You don't know what it is yet, but you feel it. A quiet internal, wait, what was that? That soft interruption is intuition getting your attention. Not loud, not intense, just present. Your new awareness clears the static, and the signal becomes easier to recognize. You begin to feel tiny nudges, small truths, quiet alignments, thoughts that feel too clean to have been constructed by your mind, a knowing that arrives without emotional charge, a pull that you can't explain. At first, you might dismiss these moments. You might assume you're imagining things or overanalyzing, and that's normal. Your mind has been running the show for a very long time. But those nudges become familiar. You start to notice the difference between thoughts that have that frantic tone of your mind, busy, dramatic, overstimulated, and that some have a completely different quality, calm, clear, steady, emotionally unattached. And that's intuition. It always presents as separate from your thinking mind, like when you're about to say yes out of habit and a quiet internal no rises before you can think. Or when you meet someone and your chest tightens, even though your logic says, they seem fine. That awareness isn't you thinking. It's information surfacing into your awareness. Your body isn't the source of intuition. It's the speaker system intuition speaks through. Sometimes you hear it, like when you're about to send a message rooted in old patterns, and something inside you speaks up with a clearly, not today, and suddenly you don't want to send it anymore. Or when you walk into a room and instantly feel the atmosphere without a word spoken. These aren't random. They aren't imaginary. They aren't silly gut feelings that deserve to be ignored. This is you being aware of the guidance system you were born with. And it feels different now because you're paying attention. You've learned to recognize the difference between thinking something through and knowing something clearly. Recognizing intuition clearly feels like remembering a language you didn't realize you understood. You know something before you start thinking about it. You feel truths that don't need evidence. You sense red flags before they're visible. You gravitate towards some people without knowing why. You drift away from others without guilt or explanation. And your choices soften, slow, and sharpen in all the right places. What surprises most people is that intuition often starts in the body, not in mystical visions, but in bodily sensations. A warmth when something is right, a heaviness when something is not, a pull forward, a pull back, a loosening, a tightening, a breath you didn't realize you were holding, a stillness you didn't know you needed. The body is not intuition. The body is intuition's amplifier, delivering messages your mind hasn't translated yet. And now that you're becoming aware, the signals finally make sense. You see them, you respect them, you register them instead of brushing them aside. Being aware of your intuition is about becoming present enough to notice what's already there, present to the part of you that's been registering what you need long before your thoughts catch up. You were never introduced to this. Your environment didn't model it. The world trained you to respond to what was loud and visible. But once you understand what intuition is and how it presents, you begin to recognize it. And once you recognize it, you start living from a different level of awareness. And that awareness changes everything.